Now it is time to witness the many faces of death.
Come on. I dare you.
What's up, guys? It's Katie Hettenbach, and this is Katie Afraidy, a horror movie review podcast where we chat with comedians, actors, filmmakers about what? Scary movies, obviously. It's a silly, haha, goofy time. We spoil, we shoot the shit, and either way, shit's about to get spooky. Oh, wait! But there's nobody here with me. Oh, wait. We're actually doing a Zoom episode today. Off of the new movie, Faces of Death, with Dacre Montgomery. Had a great chat with him, so I think we should get into it.
How are you today?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for meeting with me.
Oh no, I'm excited. I'm excited to chat. It's like I was saying to someone before, like it's so nice after this movie's been on ice in sort of like this distribution sort of dead space for a while to have celebrated opening the movie last night. It was really nice to sort of see everyone in the cinema and kind of hear all of the gasps and laughs throughout the film. It plays a lot funnier than I thought, which is kind of awesome in a horror movie setting in the cinema.
Yeah, I mean, look, a little bit about my pod. I am a comedian and actor as well. So
Awesome.
Katie Afraidy is known for being silly and goofy. So I guess
love
I
it.
should say congrats on your comedy.
Thanks.
Congrats.
Appreciate it. I didn't realize I was doing comedy when I was doing it, but it was pretty funny last night. Like some of those lines, like Margot, why do you have to be such a cuck? Got a big laugh. And I presented that line to Danny, and I really wanted it in the film. So I think her reaction got a laugh as well as in Margot's in the film. So yeah, excited to see that there's a bit of humor. It's nice I think, to also take the piss out of things sometimes, especially in horror movies when you're trying to get too serious. It's nice to sort of relieve the tension for a minute and then build it back up. I think it's quite a good device, and hats off to Danny for doing that throughout the film.
Yeah. And you did one hell of a job.
Thanks.
So bravo, bravo. So were you aware of the lore of the Faces of Death before you started?
No,
the film?
I wasn't. I don't think A, I wasn't old enough, maybe, and B, I don't think it was a thing in Australia with the VHS behind the counter, getting it from the porno section or whatever. Everything I've heard about the movie and the kind of cult following that it has. But it's funny because the movie isn't a remake. It's not a reimagining. It's not a sequel, a prequel. So in that way, it was super accessible when I read it. Having not been a fan of not knowing the original or being familiar with the original IP. And I think for me, like the biggest thing with a horror movie is having a message, because I think horror is the best way to discuss really difficult issues. And mask them for people's entertainment, and then kind of slam them at the end with, hey, look, there's this really strong, important message in here. And I think that's what the movie does, I think, by the end. So that's really what struck a chord with me, as opposed to being familiar with the original IP.
Totally, totally. So when you first get that script, what was your hell yeah, I'm in moment when reading this?
It was definitely that. It was just like, oh, this is commenting on something so much bigger. And I heard that the producers had said that as well, that when Danny and Issa had come and pitched the film to them, that they had a lot of people pitch kind of this reimagining or remake of Faces of Death, and that Danny and Issa's kind of version of it was super unique. And I think it was the same for me when I read it. But also, I had met with Danny for How to Blow Up a Pipeline, and it hadn't worked out for a bunch of different reasons. I watched the film and absolutely loved it. So it was also that when I read the script, I was like, I'm a huge fan of Danny's.
And being a fan, is huge, is huge. I also have to say, and pardon my French, you are a fucking powerhouse of an actor.
Thanks.
And you deserve every role you go out for.
Thanks.
Bravo,
Appreciate
bravo.
that, Katie. Thank you.
Of course. And so when approaching a character like Arthur, how do you even go about prepping to play like a psychopath like this?
Yeah, I talked a little bit last night at the premiere about like I feel like I studied a lot of characters, well, not characters, a lot of people in real life who were really troubled. And I think, and that had committed kind of atrocities similar to the scale that Arthur, commits atrocities in the film. And I think there's like complex childhood trauma, like from a psychological standpoint, I think to hopefully answer your question, like looking at people's childhood and going, what's their nature versus their nurture, and how much trauma did they get or receive in the household? What are they missing? Like what part of their brain isn't fully developed? Like all of those sorts of things to kind of create a human rather than
Mhm.
just going, oh, this is a bad guy and he's doing bad things. And I'm just going to create all these alternate personalities, which I do for Arthur. But those alternate personalities are like different masks that he's created for himself over the years, purely because of what he's been through in his childhood. And I think a lot of people are born in this country into awful circumstances that end up having them do awful things. And it unfortunately happens pretty much every month in the US. So I like in terms of shootings and all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of wasn't hard to find a whole lot of content and a whole lot of people to study for the role, unfortunately.
Yeah, somebody said, I read that your performance is giving Ed Gein a
Yeah,
little bit. And
yeah,
I don't want to say I'm from Wisconsin and
yeah,
he's from Wisconsin. He's our guy,
yeah,
but he's
yeah,
our unfortunately our guy. But you
yeah.
did, yeah,
Yeah, well, there's a lot of really tragic, awful characters to study, unfortunately.
totally.
And my big one with this one was Elliot Rodger, who's kind of the king of the incel community, I guess, who committed that horrible mass murder up in Santa Barbara, whenever it was in the 2010.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was someone I studied for the role.
That's awesome. And also so good pulling from, real life things,
Yeah,
um, and bringing new life to them in your
yeah,
acting. So, and is that how you kind of also differentiated him from, him at Arthur at the cell phone, his day job to him in private to him when he puts on the mask and the
yeah,
contacts?
definitely. Yeah, because I just didn't want them like they are caricatures in the sense that he's created them to be caricatures, but I wanted them to also feel real and feel nuanced and feel like that they were characters that he's really rehearsed, with precision.
Mhm. Absolutely. So you've played a hero in Power Rangers. You've played a villain turned hero in Stranger Things, and now you've played a full-blown psychopath. Which one do you prefer?
I think there's catharsis in all of them for me. They're all like you always as an actor draw from different elements of your own trauma or life. And I think every character I get or play, it accesses something new. So I would say there's not one in particular. It's just almost a spiritual exploration for me as a human being. By playing these characters and stepping in these shoes, I kind of get a macro look at human experience and then get to dive inside of it on a micro level, which is something that only an actor can kind of get to do in a way. It's a unique kind of job to have to be able to do that. But there's a lot of catharsis in it. So I don't think I could choose one or over the other.
You're like just all of it, the whole
Yeah.
process of acting, and I
Yeah.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Is there a character next that you're looking to play? Are you like, oh, maybe I won't do the villain next time. Maybe I'll try for something a little lighthearted,
Hmm.
um, maybe an actual comedy.
Yeah, I'm not very good at comedy. I don't think it's definitely I don't have a penchant for it. But since I was a kid, I wanted to direct, and I just directed my first film. So that's really what I've been focusing on the last like 5, 6 years has been just getting that made, and we're going to finish post-production on that in 2 weeks. So we'll see what that's really been the last 6 years of my life, full time, pretty much. So I'm just excited to see what comes with that. A lot of catharsis and similar type things, self-discovery things have come out of that. So I feel like that really has been the next evolution for me.
That's awesome. Trying something new, getting behind the camera. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So, what attracts you to the horror genre? Because you are no stranger to the horror genre.
Yeah, I think really horror is a great way to disguise having really difficult discussions that people wouldn't otherwise want to have. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like if you want to discuss a really hard issue in a kind of a drama, it's only going to attract a certain percentage of the audience that's really focused on learning about that. Whereas in a horror film, you can have a really different and difficult discussion and kind of mask it in a way that people like, but it sells tickets. People come to the cinema and they're like, oh my God, horror, oh my God, blood and gore. And then at the end, they're like, holy shit, what did I learn about grief or loss or the foster care system or parenting or whatever? I think horror is, one of the best genres out there because it can have these really complex, nuanced discussions, but mask them in a really different and interesting and entertaining way, as kind of ironic and strange as that sounds. And
Mhm.
that's why I've loved horror forever as an audience, but like as a consumer of movies, horror is like my favorite genre. So yeah.
That's awesome. So, in that note, then, or in that vein, what is your favorite horror movie right now?
Well, I think my favorite horror film of all time is The Shining, but not just because people love it and it's a great movie, but because it holds up. I feel like not all horror holds up. You watch it, it's affecting, and then you kind of revisit it a couple of years later and it doesn't hold. Whereas The
Mhm.
Shining, I watched the 4K restoration. If I showed like a 16-year-old that and they think it's made now because it's 4K, it stands up completely. And I think
Mhm.
really, really interesting exploration of a lot of different themes. So that's definitely something. I know it's kind of a tropey classic thing to say, but it holds up so well and for a lot of good reason.
Yeah, I love The Shining. I always felt like that was, in film school, you would give the answer of like The Shining because people hated horror. And I was like,
Yeah,
this is a horror film that is held on a pedestal, but it's such a good movie. It doesn't matter horror or not. It's a good movie all
yeah,
around.
yeah, it's great.
Now, have you been to the hotel?
No, I haven't. Is it in
Gotta go.
Colorado or
It is.
okay, yeah. No, I haven't been to the hotel, but I've watched the making of. There's this short making of, which I think is interesting, and obviously it's pretty intense, like the way Shelley Duvall was being treated, and that's, I mean, but look, it is what it is. I guess it's a long time ago, and I don't know exactly what happened, but I have watched the making of.
Yeah. It's the art versus the making of and the final product is something so amazing, but the story behind it is often a lot darker than you
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Um, so this is another one I asked. What was the first movie to scare you, horror or not?
Honestly, seeing Andy Serkis play Gollum in Lord of the Rings, because I was saying to someone before, motion capture hadn't really been done before then. So anything CGI couldn't really capture the human kind of facial structure and muscle movement and stuff. And I think as a kid, I was just terrified by that. I was terrified by, that character, but it felt human. It felt like there was a human behind it. So I think for me, that was really the first thing that absolutely terrified me. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I remember being scared of that too. That was for me, that was Spider-Man with the Green Goblin.
Yeah, I remember being terrified by that as well. That was Willem Dafoe. Hey.
Yes. And I think I'm only afraid of Willem Dafoe now. So I think that might be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. No, he's terrifying in that.
But he's apparently the sweetest human ever. So
I've heard that as well.
we love that. We love being scary on screen and being a sweetheart behind screen. Wow, what advice do you have for actors, specifically who are going to play, potentially a villain, whether it be, the bully or, somebody like Arthur, to sort of humanize them and yeah.
I think honestly, my answer is in your question, which is
No.
humanizing them. I think is the most important thing. Is not just playing someone that's bad, that doesn't really exist. People and human beings are more nuanced than that. So I think that's really been my approach with characters like Arthur or characters like Billy in Stranger Things was not just to play them as a villain or play them as an antagonist or a bad person, but to humanize them. So I definitely agree with you on that.
Okay. Great, 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 great. Okay, so I have one more very silly thing to ask you, and
Yes.
it is a play on the name Katie Afraidy.
Yes.
Do you think audiences will be afraidy or not afraidy of
Oh,
your
definitely.
movie?
I definitely
Face to
Afraidy. Definitely Afraidy. Yeah, I mean, it's fucking terrifying to be honest,
Yeah.
because it's very real.
Mhm.
And in line with what's happening in the world right now. So yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Yeah. I think I might delete all of my social media accounts
Yeah.
thanks to you. So
Yeah.
thanks for
Yeah.
that. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah. I try my best to make a terrifying character. So hopefully if it worked, it worked.
You did a hell of a job. I mean, look, Stranger Things is one thing and you absolutely crush it there and power, everything you've done, but this is just was just a whole different level of intensity and like I know it's you, I know how acting works, I know how a set works, but you kind of vanish into the character and I'm like, wow, I really hate this guy. And I'm like, but I know you're not a bad person. You're not actually doing that stuff, but it's just you vanish and it's just really satisfying to watch.
Thanks. I appreciate that. That means a lot. And it was really nice to chat today as well. I appreciate you taking the time.
Of course. Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, take care, Katie. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Dacre, for taking the time to chat with me about your new movie, Faces of Death. Make sure to go check that out in theaters. It is a spooky, good old time. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in again. Make sure to like, subscribe, all that jazz on Katie Afraidy, all social media platforms. And if you're feeling crazy, give us a review. Why not? And on that note, guys, we will see you next time. Stay Afraidy.
We would like to give a huge thanks to a few of our sponsors. Filmcraft Studio Gear, where you can get any gear you're looking for all production needs. Go to filmcraftla.com or you can find them at filmcraftla on Instagram. And of course, a big shout out to Fangoria. Want a copy of a Fangoria magazine? Use code Katie Afraidy 25 for 25% off. Katie Afraidy 25 for 25% off.